into All Things. Our topic today, we had a little bit of a shift in our topic today. It was going to be all things finance, but we have a special guest and we're going to introduce him here in just a moment, and we had to add a little bit to that topic. So welcome in today to All Things Finance and Leadership.
We're so glad you're here. I am extremely excited for today's episode because it's a special one for me. 12 years ago, our family made the move to Camden to come to Cornerstone. And then about a year later, I would end up working at a local bank in Camden. And to be honest, this bank has changed my life for the better. And it's a blessing. It's been a blessing to me. It's been a blessing to my family. And we're honored today to have Jon Harrell, the chairman and CEO of Generations Bank, with us today.
Welcome.
And Jon, we're glad you're here. Honored to have you. Your friendship, mentorship, you've meant the world to me. And thank you for joining us and agreeing to be here today. So we welcome you.
Well, thank you guys so much, and I assure you that 12 years ago, it seems like it was 3 years ago, but having the Sheltons part of our bank has been a blessing to us, and to watch you guys raise your family and the style and manner of which you've raised them and the impact you have on the community has been fun for me to watch.
That means a lot.
It does. I sit in the podcast studio with my two big bosses today, so
No pressure.
I may need a little extra prayer for those listening out there. So we always start our episodes, Jon, with a one thing. The title of the show is All Things, but I think Keisha's going to do a one thing for both of us today before we get going, and I'll turn it over to her and let her tell you about her one thing.
It's a product. This one thing is a product. And I hesitate to say anything in my life is life-changing, but this is really close. It's a sonic ice machine. If you're on the fence about buying one, get off the fence and buy it. We found one just on Walmart.com, and it was not that expensive, but oh my goodness. I don't know what I did before I had this sonic ice.
To all of the men listening, happy wife, happy life. Go buy the sonic ice machine.
I can have it anytime I want. It's so convenient. It's that delicious, soft, chewy ice, and it's made such a difference. I feel like I'm happier because I can have.
Because you can have your sonic ice.
I can have
whenever
sonic ice with whatever I want, whenever I want.
Without driving to town.
It's been a great thing. So speaking of sonic ice, I also wanted to reference here, because this is a podcast. We're supposed to talk about things. The box did not say Sonic, but everybody understands what I mean when I say Sonic Ice, right? They have kind of like a cornered the market there. So there are some brands that have become words like Sonic Ice. So I looked up some brands that we use for the word, like Band-Aid. We don't say bandage, right? Do y'all say bandage, or do you say Band-Aid?
Band-Aid.
Or if you need to blow your nose, you're going to get a
Kleenex.
But that's not really what it's called. It's called a tissue, but we say Kleenex. There's a couple more maybe you didn't think of. We say Sharpie for a permanent marker.
Mm-hmm. Used one right before we came in here.
We say, what do you use if your lips are dry?
Chapstick.
Okay. And then what do your kids want in the summer when it's hot?
Popsicles.
Yes, but those are all, every single one of those that we listed were brands. They're not actual products. So Sonic Ice Machine, I don't know the brand, but it makes Sonic Ice, and it's amazing.
So tomorrow, you get to start back to school.
Yes.
And a big thing for you as a teacher has always been introducing your classes with Would You Rathers. And I think you've got some. Maybe we'll ask these to Jon today.
Yes. So are you ready,
what
Jon?
He would rather.
Let's go.
Okay. So would you rather, this is kind of a classic one. Would you rather have a job that you hate? So forget about generations for just a moment. I know it's hard to do. Would you rather have a job you hate, but you make a large salary, or a job you absolutely love, but you're not paid a lot? You're paid, enough to make ends meet.
Well, at this stage of my life,
Yeah.
I am 58 years old. I would much rather have a job that brought me satisfaction and fulfillment.
Yes.
And if you do
Than the
that
comforts of life.
do that long enough, I do think do it well, the compensation will follow.
That's true. I believe that too. It's always interesting to ask the young people, because a lot of them they'll surprise you, but a lot of them are willing. They think they're willing to do a job that they hate for the money side of it. Okay, so you just said your age. You're 58. So here's the next question. Would you rather retire early? I'll let you give your definition of early, but I was thinking somewhere even younger than you right now. With $1 million in the bank, or retire late with $2 million in the bank, or whatever.
So you double, yeah.
Double, yeah. Just
Double.
it doesn't
Retire
have to be
with
1 or
double.
$2 million, but retire early with a sum, or retire later in life, double that sum.
Well, I've already exposed my age.
Cat's out of the bag.
I'm going to say retire later, double the sum, and I think you have to have a purpose in life. And I'm not ready to give up my current purpose. I may find a additional purpose
Yeah.
in 10 years when I decide maybe not to be a banker, but God's not through with me yet in this profession.
That's good.
It's very good. So we want to dive into kind of some of the meat of this episode, and obviously introduced you a few moments ago in your current role of leading Generations Bank, the chairman, CEO. Tell us a little bit about your background, who you were before you were where you're at now. You know, growing up, education, what has led you to where you are today at this point in your life?
Well, I grew up in Camden, Arkansas.
Woohoo.
Yeah. My father was an attorney in town, and we have had this bank in our town. It's gone through different names, which were more specifically identified by its location in the past. So I guess growing up, I was exposed to law and banking and finance. And I think I went to college with the aspirations of being a lawyer, and quickly realized I didn't want to go to college that long.
For that long.
and migrated to finance and banking with the thought that one day I could run the family bank, and graduated from the University of Arkansas in 1988 with a banking and finance degree. I was an Arkansas State Bank examiner. That sounds exciting,
Wow,
doesn't it?
it's really exciting.
For 3 to 5 years, and really enjoyed that, learned a lot, made a lot of great people, made a lot of good contacts, which have really helped my career. And so did that, met my wife. That was a job that required at that time constant travel. So we settled down in Little Rock. I worked with some banks in Little Rock, not related to the family bank at that time, but had an opportunity to come back here in 1992, start working for the family bank, and started my family here in Camden. And we were able to grow the bank. We actually acquired an additional bank in Junction City, Arkansas, not too far down the road. Yeah. So we had locations in Camden, Hampton, and Junction City. And worked there until 2005. And I had a pivotal time in my life. I had the opportunity to move to Northwest Arkansas and work for a kind of an up-and-coming community bank, kind of startup. It was vibrant and kind of exciting to me at that time in my life. So I made the most difficult decision of my life to this point.
Sure.
And decided to leave the family bank and move there and take advantage of this opportunity. In the world, just it's amazing.
Yeah.
God has a
Full
plan for
circle.
you.
God has a plan.
Came full circle, and the economy kind of tanked in 2008 to 10. I got a lot of experience, some of it hard knocks experience, learning through trials and tribulations of a down economy. So the bank I was working for was having some problems. So the family bank bought a couple of locations from that bank, entered the Northwest Arkansas market, and had an opportunity to grow and thrive. And we have done that. And that's where we're headquartered today, and have an opportunity to grow and still retain the family bank connection. And I'm just really proud of that. And it's I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
You talked a lot about the banking family side. You're married, a couple of kids, Max and Mackenzie, and a couple of grandbabies.
Two
now.
grandbabies, two granddaughters.
Gotta get that out there. So,
What's your grandpa name? Can I ask that?
Well, that was one of the tougher decisions I've ever made in my life. And so I settled on Grandpa. I mean, I know that's exciting, but I think Corbin, my oldest granddaughter, who's 19 months, has now renamed me Papa.
okay.
Pretty
which I am
classic.
perfectly fine with.
That's wonderful.
I love it.
So, a lot about your history, but Generations Bank, where's the bank at currently today? Size, employees?
Right. We're an approximate $920 million community bank in Arkansas. We've got 8 locations in Arkansas and a new one in southwest Missouri that we purchased a couple of years ago. We have about 140 employees scattered from Kimberling City to Missouri to Junction City,
Way down to
Arkansas.
Junction City.
So it's, if you were to track it one day, it's about 7 hours to get from one spot to the other.
One spot to the other. 140 employees?
Yes.
Is that right? Wow. That's awesome.
So, for somebody like me who I am not in banking, I was a teller through college, but I am not in banking.
She's off during the summers, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Jesus. Where would you suggest someone to go and get reliable financial information? Like, there's just like any topic, there is so much information, and not all of it's necessarily true or reliable or even good. So, where would you suggest somebody listening right now who's not a banker to go read if they wanted to become more knowledgeable on finance?
Well, Dave Ramsey, of course, right?
Okay,
I'm only half kidding. No, I think that's a great resource. I knew this question was coming, and I gave it a lot of thought. And it's a difficult one because I don't think we do a good job of raising our kids or that next generation being financially savvy,
Sure.
Particularly personal financial management.
Right.
My kids and your kids will never write a check.
Nope.
That won't happen.
That's true.
So, I mean, at least when you wrote a check, you had the discipline of writing it down in your checkbook and maintaining a balance, but they're just swiping a card or clicking on the iPhone. And so it's a totally different world they're going to grow up in. And so I think I mean, there are resources. You can Google things. There's AI. There's tons of out there. But I think it starts with family. I mean, I think we have to invest in our kids, and so they understand financial management. I mean, a kid gets out, graduates high school, graduates college, gets a job, buys a house, buys a car. Well, you got to learn to pay sales tax. You got to learn to pay personal property taxes. You got to learn to assess your personal property taxes every year. That's a lot. I mean,
That's a lot.
like I said, I'm 58 years old, and I forget to assess every year. I don't know about you guys.
My dad ingrained it into me, so it's on my calendar every year in January. Go assess.
That
Go
is
assess.
true discipline. That is true discipline. But then, I think we need to be able to teach them what those taxes are for. I mean, personal property taxes support our schools. Sales taxes help with community improvements. And so I just think that knowledge, if we can pass it on,
That's so good.
would be a benefit to everybody.
And I think that's biblical too. The Bible talked about, you shall talk of these things to your kids, because that's how he intended originally for information to travel down.
And I'm going to make a plug for community banking too. I know she said, Google or to read, but I would also offer to you go into your local bank and sit down with a banker you trust and ask them some questions. And
Yeah.
they're a great resource. And I'll tell you, all bankers are interested in getting into schools and teaching. They'll come to classes. I know we do that a lot down here in Camden. I know all of our markets do that as a bank. And you would be surprised at the resource you have in your local community that's willing to help and offer you advice, offer you input. And to me, a great community banker is a great resource as well.
I love those responses. I feel like moms and dads, listen up. You are your kids' financial knowledge and expertise. So whatever you don't know, educate yourself and find out.
And the kids will mirror how you handled your finances.
And sometimes we avoid it because it's sticky or because we don't know or it can be uncomfortable. It could be uncomfortable. So get over that and educate yourself because your kids are depending on you.
So you've been in banking 30 plus years? Is that right?
Michael.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Sorry.
36 years.
I was doing some quick math back to
Probably about as long as
92.
You
about
made
as long
this
as you
so
guys have been
easy by
alive.
saying your age at the beginning. It's
You
easy
did.
now.
Now it just rolls off. So I'm going to assume a lot of lessons have been learned. Is there any important lessons that you look back and you're like, wow, I really learned a valuable lesson there through your career, something you could share of some things you've learned along the way?
Well, I don't know how long your podcast is, so I won't go all the way back. You learn things about credit decisions and technical banking things that would bore everyone to death, so I won't go there.
Yeah.
I think what I've learned the most recently is the people challenges and what's the best way to deal with those.
Yeah.
Because, we want the right people on our team. Mm-hmm. We want those people to have success and a vision forward within our industry and particularly within Generations Bank. And so we kind of set some standards, we set some values, and we want to make sure that we get the people on the team that get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
And if not, if they don't fit that mold,
sure.
They probably are better off working elsewhere in a different industry, and that might be the best thing for them. And so I would just say people challenges, dealing with them efficiently and effectively because they are sticky. We've mentioned that word. Mm-hmm. And if you spend all your time dealing with those things, you really takes away from the attention you can give to the things that really will make the bank more successful and those people that work there that are really giving it all they have the opportunity to grow and thrive.
Sure. So I won't ask specific, obviously, people issue, but challenges through your career that you've had to face and overcome. Is there maybe an example of something throughout 30 years of, man, that was a significant, I know there's been some recessions through that time.
Sure.
It may be something you could speak to that was a challenge for you personally or for the bank.
Yeah.
And how you came out of that.
Yeah, no, economic volatility has been a constant over 36 years. It has changed, and we're just about to enter a new phase, I think, and some interest rate volatility. Personally, I've never been CEO of a bank, and my father passed away about 11 years ago, very suddenly, and I won't say thrust because that's not a good word, but having the family responsibility to take on that position was, I won't say overwhelming, but you want to talk about staying humble.
Yeah.
That will keep you humble quickly. And just, I constantly remind myself and everyone around me, our executive team, and I've never done this before. And it takes a team, everyone doing their part to make something successful and to achieve your goals. And but that has by far probably been the most challenging thing that's happened to me personally.
Right.
That put me in a position where I had to make some tough decisions and
Quickly.
And like I said, it puts you on your knees and keep you humble quickly.
Absolutely.
True.
So this is where it's all things finance, but I want to delve into a little bit of the leadership side, just because you've always been a leader in my life. I came to the bank around 2012, 13-ish, and I think we were around $500 million in assets at the time, but I may be wrong. But so I've been able to watch the bank grow. Certainly, a lot of that's been under your leadership. Now 140 plus employees. So as the CEO of an organization, how do you get your values and what's important to you, and how do you share that with your team? How do you get that throughout the company? Culture, maybe the right word there. How do you go about leading that effort from your standpoint?
We've been very intentional, and that's something else I've learned is culture. Culture eats
strategy for breakfast.
There you go. I'm sorry. Thank you for. I couldn't remember that, and it does. I have learned that. That's been a learned skill, and it is true. Mm-hmm. You can set a strategy, but if you don't have the right people, they're doing the right thing for the right reasons, it won't work. So we spend a lot of time and very intentional in designing a culture. It starts with what I kind of call our root system: faith, family, work. If that ever gets out of balance, nothing else can work. I had a conversation with an employee today. I was concerned with kind of putting in too much time working, and I just had to remind that person, make sure we keep these in that order, and because it's not sustainable if it's not.
Yeah, I love that. Faith, family, work.
Yeah, and then we designed what we call an acronym, like our ARCs. Michael's heard
Accountability, relationships, ARC, communication, and stewardship.
There you go.
I got you.
You passed the test. And that's been something that we are really trying to penetrate throughout the organization. And it will be part of our hiring process, our how we train people, what our expectations are, how we do their management evaluations, how we discipline them if necessary. And that is really how we're trying to build our culture is on that, with that root system being always the most important thing.
Right. So good, because, we mentioned from Kimberling City, Missouri, all the way to Junction City. So that's something I was going to lean into a little bit of, how do you get alignment when you can't be present in all those locations, but you have a root system, as you said, and I think that's so good.
That's cool too, that banks are branches and y'all have roots. So it's kind of, it gives it a good visual. I'm a visual learner, so that makes it a good visual for me. So great explanation.
Yeah, that's great. So from a leadership perspective, staying in this realm for a little bit, how do you balance the needs of your team, your immediate that answer to you on a day-to-day basis or with you every day? How do you balance that to also balancing the needs of the organization as a whole? And you may have spoken to that a little bit, the root system from, establishing a core system, your ARCs, what they are at your bank, but how do you get that from CEO down to a brand new hire within the bank, that downward flow, and get that alignment there throughout the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I have to refer back to ARCs because I think I've trained myself to do that. Accountability is really always the kind of the linchpin, I think, of those 4 core values. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have accountability for everyone to do their job, nothing else. I mean, if you're not accountability, communication struggles, stewardship struggles, relationships suffer.
Yeah.
So everyone from myself to the executive team I work with, to the market leaders, branch managers, that frontline universal banker, to our back office call center people, I mean, they have to understand, and they should have been told, when they were hired. We had it's your idea, Michael. We had this offsite with everyone, all 140 of us. Our marketing team came up with meet in the middle, and it was in Conway, Arkansas. And we got everybody together, and it was just a really sweet, special time.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to speak to everyone about those values, gave away values awards, and it was just a real neat time. And I think you have to constantly, you got to make a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's the best way I can answer your question. It's constant. You got to reinforce it. You got to, you can't say it enough.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in obviously biblically too, making the vision plain. You know, like this is the expectation. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're hoping for, and re-emphasizing it, stating it again and again, but making it plain, understandable, where everybody knows this is who we are. And that's something we've, with a growing church here in Camden, is how do you maintain culture with growth? And I think you just have to make it plain. You have to continue to stay on it and stay the course. And so I appreciate those insights there. So you want to flip back to some banking?
Yes, I had a
101
couple
here?
of questions about banking. So you've already referenced your expertise in banking spans over decades. So you've seen changes in technology and how much banking and finance is digitized now. So how does it affect roles and jobs in Generations Bank, technology and digital transformations?
Well, like I said, maybe I'm too old to answer this question, but I'll give it my best shot.
Wait till she brings the AI question in a
That's
minute.
next.
Well,
Kidding.
Obviously, it has tremendously changed since I'm doing this. I mean, we talked about the obsolete future for checks. I mean,
Right.
checks were everything. Everything had a ticket. Everything ran through something that posted it to an account somewhere. So that's changed dramatically. Just the use of computers, how we look things up. I mean, there was a world before cell phones where, you didn't have access to your account.
And
all your
pull up your mobile
information
app
on
and-
your phone. It has just tremendously changed the business,
Yeah.
and there's been it is less than the need for brick and mortar branches.
Yeah.
Because if you still have to invest a tremendous amount in technology to keep up with not only the larger banks, there are finance companies out there which are only online, and there's just tremendous competition. And being a community bank, it's difficult because we don't have the resources that Bank of America has, J.P. Morgan Chase.
Sure.
So we have to have the tools available to our clients which satisfy their financial needs
Yeah.
that Generations Bank can afford to invest in and look for the future. And
And how quickly technology changes. I've always told the story. I bought a brand new iPhone at the Verizon store, and the very next day, a new model of the iPhone came out, and it was just overnight. And
you were just looking for you thought you got a deal.
I was hoping to get a deal. I was, but it kind of speaks to how quickly evolving. You invest a lot of money into a digital platform, and a year from now, it's stale dated.
Sure.
And so it's difficult to keep up. And obviously, this next question is certainly speaking to it. We're seeing it all over our world.
So, I teach mathematics in a college, and every week it seems like we're talking about AI, and it's not going away. So, just as a complete estimation, nobody knows for sure, but where do you see AI playing a role in banking in the future?
I think that AI will dramatically improve efficiencies in the future in obviously the banking industry and industries worldwide, which will probably mean we'll need less people to do certain jobs because
Yeah.
you just ask the computer to do it and they'll get it done. So I think efficiencies will be the big thing as far as going forward.
Right.
And,
Keisha and Max just flew Delta over the weekend, and I had some questions pre-flight, and so I pulled up their website looking for the FAQs, but I ended up clicking a link, and it was an AI deal that popped up, an assistant, virtual assistant, and typed in my question, started spitting out the answers to me.
So it's kind of like he said, it was efficient.
Yeah, very efficient. And it wasn't waiting on a call center rep or waiting for a tech somewhere in a back office. It was instant, my answers and results. And so I think efficiencies are going to be huge.
And I think our mindset towards it is important also, because there are some negatives, but I think it's not going anywhere. We need to learn to work with it instead of against it.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
our
it's
kids
very-
are going to grow up with this.
Yeah.
They're going to grow up, learning it from the
don't-
very beginning.
Don't be scared of it. It doesn't have to be a negative.
So from an economic standpoint in your role, what are you and what are others in your industry paying attention to right now? I would obviously assume technology's always big there, but what's the landscape of the economy that industry leaders are looking at right now and kind of just paying attention to, and the markets or various things?
Right. Well, I think, post-COVID, and the amount of cash that was injected into the economy, obviously caused some supply issues while demand grew, as we all know. We had this dramatic interest rate increases, which I had never seen in my career in banking. Just quickly went
So
up.
fast, how
so
quick
fast.
it all increased.
And that was unprecedented. And we've seen this leveling for 18 to 24 months, where we have this inverted yield curve, which, once again, I hate to get too technical, but
We have smart listeners out
that's
there.
right. Well, basically, your savings account would pay more interest than if you bought a 10-year treasury bond, just because the current rates are so much higher than the long-term rates. Mm-hmm. And that has happened, but this had been the longest cycle of an inverted yield curve in a long time. I can't say in
Yeah.
U.S. history, because I
Right.
just I don't know. But it's been a long time, certainly in my career. And now I think the anticipation is those short-term rates will start to come down with some Federal Reserve actions, probably starting next month. So we'll get more probably to a normal yield curve, which for banking is typically easier
Yeah.
to navigate through.
So we're hopeful.
So yeah, that's the biggest economic thing I think it's on everyone's mind right now.
Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't mention the fun election we have coming up.
Well,
we avoid
can all
politics
we'll
here.
all gut through that.
Yeah.
So, speaking of my flight, last Friday I noticed that Generations Bank has received an award as one of the 2024 Companies of Distinction by Arkansas Money in Politics. So congratulations, that's awesome. I saw that when I was in the airport. So last question from me today. As a teacher, this is very easy. So I'm curious to see what it's like for a banker. How do you continue to learn and grow in your career? So teachers have professional development, we have classes, we go to conferences. Is it much the same for banking, or is there differences?
It's much the same. We use outside consultants that come in and help us structure some of our balance sheet categories. And then there's kind of AI. You talked about that. And like I said, I've never been chairman and CEO of a bank, so anything I can get my hands on as far as people that have done it, have been successful, because you don't have to invent something to be good at it.
Do you have a favorite author?
I've been reading. My taste in reading has changed a lot. A couple of books by a guy named Arthur Brooks.
Arthur Brooks.
Kind of some self-help books.
Okay.
That it's got a Christian biblical tinge to it that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
And they're easy. I call them airplane books, because you can a flight to and from somewhere. You can basically read the whole thing.
Read it
which
real
is
quick.
about my attention
Yes,
span.
that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
So we were going to obviously we've hit banking, we've hit leadership. Want to dive in a little bit of the personal side. So when you're not busy being the CEO of Generations Bank, 140 employees and assets under your watch, over 900 million, what does Jon Harrell like to do? What's your favorite thing to do?
Oh, my favorite pastime would be I like to play golf. And as my kids are out of the house now, this grandkid phase may change things, but I like to travel and play and go play places that I haven't visited before. So it's kind of a combination trip and a destination to play golf. So
like that.
that's my main thing. And I have scuba dived in my life, and that's always been quite an experience. And my wife and I we like to travel,
Yeah.
just see new things and trying to set it up. But she is always relevant to tell me now, well, what if I need to keep the grandkids? So we'll see what
So
the future
times are
looks
changing.
You've moved down the ladder a little
like.
bit.
I
so.
get it. I get it.
So we want to talk a little bit, just lastly here, generosity. We've talked finance, and I want to talk a little bit about giving. For us, it's a lifestyle, and I don't know that I realized this prior to working at the bank, but the bank, Generations Bank, I'll certainly say, is an active giver in the community. We like to give back to our schools. Personally, we've always made the statement we want to strive to live with an open hand, being willing to give, to share if there's a need. And I know Generations Bank has done that a number of instances. I don't know if you want to speak to things they've done in the community or personal generosity. I know you're a faithful member of your church and support that, but I wanted to give a chance just to talk about giving real quick, what that means to you from the bank standpoint or personal, if you want to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. Certainly, I think the definition of a community bank is we support the communities where we operate.
It's good.
Mm-hmm. And it not only is the right thing to do, it strengthens those communities and the members of those communities.
Right.
So I think just at its core, that's part of being a community bank. And I think that separates us from the larger banks that, Bank of America is not going to put any money in Camden, Arkansas.
That's right.
But Generations Bank is, and the other banks in town do a good job of that also.
Yeah.
So that's the definition of a community bank. From a personal giving standpoint, one of my most embarrassing moments of my life, I can't believe I'm telling this story.
I can't wait.
I was a young child, and I remember church, they gave us these little, Ziploc bags to put money in, to bring back, to put in plate. And I just couldn't figure out what the deal was. You want me to give my money to put in there to put in the plate. And so that's self-admission that you probably didn't need to know about. But
We caught a kid giving
go
more
ahead.
money than we anticipated in the offering plate one time. We were both on the platform at church, and she was wondering, where's all my money going?
I had cash.
And
several
we caught
weeks in
him.
a row, I had $30 this week. I had $40 this week, and it was just gone. And so I started suspecting my poor students. I started thinking, well, are my students pilfering through my wallet? It ended up being one of our kids. When the offering plates would go by at church,
Oh,
they were
okay.
emptying everything I had into it.
Well, but I do think, 58 years, I've outgrown and understand giving. I just read another small book called Gospel Patrons, and it was really talked about the history of giving and how just the act of giving would support the ministry efforts of some exceptional people through history. Mm-hmm. And it was really kind of cool. It really kind of went way back to England and,
Wow.
and the King James Bible and
Gospel
how
patrons.
and how it was supported by a wealthy patron to a guy who was translating the Bible into the King James Version. And
Wow.
and I was really impacted
It sounds
by it.
inspiring, yeah.
That's great. Today's been so good for me. Thank you again, John, for being here and for agreeing to do this. And Keisha, it's been a pleasure to be with both of you.
And all good things must come to an end. We are delighted that you were here, John, Mr. John. I feel kind of informal just calling you John, but
Please call me
it's been a
John.
pleasure. Thank you so much, and we look forward to being back. I think our next episode we are also going to have some more guests in, and I'll let you just think on who it might be. God bless you.